And welcome back to the show. Part of the solution is a multi-service agency that's actually nourishing the basic needs and hunger of all those who come through its doors. The agency assists low-income families and individuals, and since 1982 has grown to become a leading provider of emergency food, social services, and legal representation in the borough of the Bronx. Now, POTS services address the varying issues and complexities accompanying poverty by helping clients find stability across areas such as financial well-being, health, education, housing, and also day-to-day needs. And with the COVID-19 pandemic affecting housing and food insecurity, the question is, what initiatives are being taken to actually help those in need? We're pleased to be joined this morning by the the executive director of Part of the Solution, POTS, Christina Hanson. And Christina, good to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so
happy.
And
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this here. I mean, as we go into 2021, obviously, some of those needs do carry over. We want it to be a new year, but the needs and food insecurity, unfortunately, is going to be a need that's going to be saddled with many people in 2021. And talk to me a little bit about POTS and the work that you're doing to really deal with that issue of food insecurity.
Absolutely, yes. Food insecurity was already a challenge in the Bronx prior to the pandemic, and it's something that we were addressing every day. In our community, 48% of families with children live below the poverty line, even before a major disruption happened like that of the pandemic. And this year, it became an even bigger challenge for our community because of how many people lost their jobs who work in the Bronx because of the pandemic. And so throughout, POTS has been serving additional food. So we have been working hard since we never shut our doors. We've been open the entire time, providing food for our food pantry. So we provide bags of food for people to cook at home. And then we also provide prepared meals for people to take to eat. And we used to serve those inside the building. Now we do it at the door, but it's still high quality, delicious, nutritious food. And this year we served over 2 million meals. So 2020, we served more than 2 million meals into our local community, whereas in past years, the highest number we'd ever served was around 1 million meals. So we more than doubled our food output this year.
How have you been able to manage, given the fact that you have had this increased need? When you talk about providing services, the need for more personnel and doing that, what's it been like for you guys? Have you been overwhelmed to the place with personnel and volunteers and having to do this?
So we did have to make a lot of changes. Some personnel we sort of shifted some of our resources to the food program, and then we also did some hiring. So during the pandemic, unlike a lot of other places, we actually hired new staff and we expanded there. And then volunteer-wise, we've had fewer because we're trying to manage social distancing, and because a lot of school groups and business groups and church groups no longer can volunteer. But we have had quite a number of incredibly dedicated individual volunteers who've been so helpful.
I want to look at some of the numbers that we recently got concerning your organization. We know that 1,500 children and adults received back-to-school supplies, Thanksgiving turkeys, and holiday gifts, and over 843 households received legal representation, and the clinic prevented 430 households from being evicted. The reason I focus on the latter is given the fact that we're now in 2021, we know what's happening with residential and the potential for residential evictions once this moratorium is over. Talk to us about that and some of the work that you've been doing in this legal representation, particularly in the area of eviction.
Absolutely, yes. We're very concerned about what is to come around eviction. I do know that it sounds like they've expanded the moratorium, but there's still, even if the moratorium is expanded, people still need to come up with those funds to pay rent. And it's unclear to us how that happens without additional support. So POTS has a team of people who will assist those who have rent arrears, either access funds from the government, or we have a little bit ourselves that we can help with. And we also help when Bronx Housing Court is open. We have attorneys who will help argue the case in housing court on behalf of clients. And that's something that we've had to be very creative about this year, how to manage that process, because often when we're supporting people to keep their homes, we know that they have the future ability to pay, but because unemployment has been such a challenge, that's something that's become much harder to prove, because maybe people haven't gotten their jobs yet back. But even so, our staff has been dedicated in terms of helping find all the resources that they can for clients who come to us, and helping trying to figure out to resolve their cases and ensure that we continue to prevent evictions in our community, because it's something that's so important to keep people in their homes.
And I know you do a lot of, impactful work, and we've talked about some of the work that you actually do, but we know that you can't do it without raising funds. I know you had a virtual fundraiser not too long ago. Talk to us about that and the success of that.
Yes, we did our first ever virtual fundraiser. We got to become TV producers, which is
Welcome to the
definitely
world.
was surprising to me. But anyway, so we held our fundraiser, Helping the Bronx Bounce Back, virtually in October. And the idea was that, we've been able to we've been here doing a lot for the Bronx, but also community members of the Bronx have been doing a lot for each other during this time, raising funds when they have it and others don't, helping assist those who are homebound. For example, we've had a lot of people who will support their neighbors who are elderly and can't leave their homes. So people have been helping each other. And we wanted to highlight all of that resilience that we've seen. And it was a successful event. We were so happy because we often have in-person events. And this is the first time we'd done a virtual one. And we were so happy and so pleased to see how well people in the community responded and how much they wanted to support the work that we're doing.
Yeah. And all that you saw last year, what was the biggest thing that probably surprised you the most, given the fact that COVID-19 has shaken so much of New York State and particularly New York City?
I guess, some of the stuff that has surprised me is around, I didn't realize how quickly and how fast people were going to lose their employment. I mean, it was 2 weeks in March, and suddenly I feel like half the Bronx was unemployed. The idea that people were unable to keep on staff for any period of time at all, to have any sort of transition period for anyone, and just how quickly, our economy basically says to people, you're not valuable to us, go away. And the kind of impacts that sort of very fast turnaround can have on communities. I just didn't anticipate that.
Yeah.
And that was hard to see.
But on the flip side of that, you have 107 full or part-time jobs that were secured through POTS workforce development, and 156 people were connected to job training services. So even though that rocked you, I guess on the other side, you were also able to handle it of some sort.
Yes, absolutely. So fortunately, there are still places where there is growth in jobs. One place, for example, is Hunts Point and delivery workers. Both of those increased during the pandemic. And then there has been an increase in jobs in our community. So being able to help people brush up their resumes, get their interview skills together, figure out how to handle this virtual world interviewing has become completely different now than it used to be. But it's still possible for people to interview and get jobs. So we're so fortunate to be able to help people with that process.
Yeah. And then I also know that in this season of COVID-19 that we're still trying to navigate that. POTS is also very instrumental in making masks. And so tell us a little bit about the mask making and how people can participate in the masks.
Yes, so we had a campaign where people could make and send masks to us, and then we would distribute them to the community. That was really great fun, getting all the different styles that people created to hand them out. For a while there, it was very difficult to get masks here in the Bronx, as was anywhere. And so we were so glad to be able to help promote the health of our community by providing those masks, and to be able to connect with people who wanted to assist by making those masks. So we were so thankful for that campaign. And you're still welcome to send them here, and we can distribute them to our neighbors who are looking for them.
Well, Christina, I want to thank you so much for being with us here on Open and continuing the impactful work that POTS is doing and really bridging the gap during some real troubled times. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Darren. I appreciate it.
All righty, Christina Hanson from POTS. Now, if you want more information about POTS, you can visit their website at potsbronx.org. Once again, it's potsbronx.org. And then you can also follow them on social media at potsbronx. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. We've got more Open continuing. We'll be right back right after this.